Hello everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, I have been to India and I've seen, the locations where they shot Octopussy back in the days. And they're really proud of the fact that James Bond was shot in Udaipur and in India. And, the hotel located, next to the street where they did all the fantastic chases, they play the movie over and over and over again. And I guess, some people must be really sick of it at this point. They actually even has, the original place where Khan's, base of operations located. It's a fantastic viewpoint, but the site itself is a pretty sad site these days, but the viewpoint is absolutely amazing. But let's take a look at what I would be considering the least complicated James Bond film that has ever been done during the Roger Moore era. It's very basic formula. James Bond tries to find something, somebody tries to stop him, fantastic action sequences with lots of creativity falls. But is that enough to make this into a great movie? Short answer, yes! Let's find out what this movie is about, shall we? This is Octopussy. Been murdered in East Berlin, and in his hand he was clutching a Fabergé egg. Now this clown wasn't just any clown, he was a member of the MI6 and one of James Bond's colleagues, so James Bond needs to figure out why he was murdered. Now apparently there is a lot of old Russian regality and Fabergé eggs and jewelry on the loose. Everything seems to be tied to a man called Kamal Khan, who this is unknown to Bond, is working together with a Soviet general called General Orlov, who has some evil plans that we're going to go into in a second. But James Bond gets, of course, the mission to go and try to find out what Khan is doing and who he's working with and stuff like that. And now we have a James Bond thing going on. You see, General Orlov's plan is basically, by the way, I must say how much I love the presentation of it. It is basically the GoldenEye presentation. Things rises from the floor, things coming out from the walls, and we're having this fantastic, map that he has over Europe where he shows that he's going to invade the entire thing and just create total war. The rest of the Politburo, however, doesn't share his enthusiasm for total war, and General Orlov is on the outside, but he will get his big plan going anyway. I like General Orlov, even though he's a very stereotypical evil Russian. The same thing cannot be said for Kamal Khan, who is a pretty lackluster and underwhelming villain. I like his muscles, who's basically a odd job type of a character, even though this guy can actually speak. So James Bond travels to India and discovers some things about Kamal Khan and tries to find out what's going on here. He also come in contact with Octopussy, played by Maud Adams, who lives with her women soldiers or whatever they are on this palace in the middle of the lake in Udaipur. And James Bond goes there and he talks to her and stuff like that. I like Maud Adams' character in this movie because she's kind of a complex character whose relationship with Kamal Khan kind of complicates things, and she's probably one of the more complex Bond girls, even though girl might be a wrong term for her. She was 38 at the time anyway, but the thing is that this movie is just filled with so much joy. We have fantastic chase sequences, we have fantastic action sequences, a great sequence on a train that just seems to go on and on and on, with lots of creativity and lots of joy, and there's just so much life to this movie. And you can eye roll at lots of things being very silly and very stupid. For instance, there is a sequence where Roger Moore swings in vines and stuff like that, and you have Tarzan sound effects over the whole thing. Now, personally, I roll and tell everybody how stupid this is, rather than being bored of how realistic but ultimately dull the whole thing is. Hello, No Time to Die. Anyway, this is a really fun and very underrated Bond film. You can also make the very solid argument that Roger Moore is far too old to play James Bond at this stage in the James Bond franchise, but I can't complain about that. When I've said my piece about it, he should have quit after Moonraker. This is a very fun movie with a fantastic double hitter of a finish. First we have the fantastic thing on the train, which also features a very rarity in James Bond, which actually is a race against the clock. And then we have the sequences in Kamal Khan's Evil Lair with, you know, Q in hot air balloons and, you know, the female assassins and stuff like that. It's a lot of really fun nonsense. But there is one sequence that made me go a little, huh? You see, there is this bomb that James Bond has to stop, and he has to get into this circus. And mirroring images of what happens in the beginning of the movie, he disguised himself as a clown, complete with shoes and wardrobe and makeup. He did this in movie time, like 2 or 3 minutes, because we see the, you know, timer on the bomb and it has barely moved from where he went into. He comes out in full clown you know, attire and stuff like that. And I thought, how the hell did he do that? Did somebody help him with that? Did he do it by himself? How did he find clothes that fit him? There are so many questions. This is a very big, epic, spectacular James Bond film featuring Roger Moore. Not to the level of The Spy Who Loved Me or Moonraker. Those, you know, super excesses has, you know, been long gone. But if you want to have the joyfulness of a great Roger Moore James Bond film, but with at least a teaspoon of reality in it, this is a pretty great choice. This is, by and large, one of my favorite James Bond films of all time. This is by far the best of the late Roger Moore James Bond films, featuring a couple of absolutely stellar chase sequences. The sequence in Udaipur where they just, you know, are being chased by Kamal Khan's guys, and James Bond and the local yokel, who probably is going to die very soon, you know, dispatches them and, you know, have these snake charmers and the fakirs and all that things. It is just so much fun. Some smaller sequences could potentially have been cut, but nah, I'm sticking with it that this is a pretty damn excellent James Bond film. I give Octopussy 83 points. It's not perfect. Roger Moore is too old for this one, and Kamal Khan is simply not a very memorable villain, but almost everything else works to a T. I strongly recommend this one if you haven't seen it. So I'll see you next time for Well So and So reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much. I ain't gonna jump on this fucking lake, man.